A CBS News investigation has exposed questionable spending practices within one of the most prominent charities for wounded veterans. Financial records show, compared to similar charities, the Wounded Warrior Project spends far less on the vets themselves. Chip Reed reports.
The nation's most prominent veterans charity is facing criticism from more than 40 former employees about how it spends the more than $800 million it's raised in the past 6 years. We asked Mark Owens, a former director of tax-exempt organizations at the IRS, to review the Wounded Warrior Project's tax documents.
What was your biggest concern in reading these forms?
That I couldn't tell the number of people that were assisted. I thought that was truly unusual. If the organization is asking for money and spending money, purportedly spending money to assist veterans, I'd like to know.
Wounded Warrior Project says 80% of their money is spent on programs for veterans. That's because they include some promotional items, direct response advertising, and shipping and postage costs. Take that out, and the figures look more like what charity watchdogs say, that only 54 to 60% of donations go to help wounded service members.
The CEO has said that fundraising should and can be included in the programs and services. Your response?
Well, I'd be curious to know how asking people for money equates to the assistance of wounded veterans.
Stephen Nardizzi has been CEO since 2009. In 2014, he was paid nearly $500,000. That's in line with similar-sized charities. But many former employees told us they thought it was too much. Nardizzi defended his salary to our Norfolk affiliate last April.
My salary is less than 1/10 of 1% of the donations that come in. And I am running an organization that is helping hundreds of thousands of warriors.
Last year, WWP gave a $150,000 grant to a group that defends higher spending on overhead, executive salaries, and fundraising by charities. Nardizzi says the more money the charity raises, the more money it can spend on veterans.
If your only fixation is spending the most on programs, that's feeling good, but not necessarily doing good. You could run a lot of program activities, you could spend a lot of money and have them be wholly ineffective.
But charity watchdog Daniel Borokoff says his biggest concern is that the group is sitting on a $248 million surplus, and not enough of it is being spent on veterans.
It would be helpful if these hundreds of millions of dollars were being spent to help veterans, in the shorter term, in the year or two, rather than being held for longer term.
Wounded Warrior Project told us it is committing $100 million to a new mental health care initiative, and they hope to raise another $500 million for long-term care for severely wounded veterans. It could be years before most of that money makes an impact on the lives of wounded service members. Contessa?
Yeah, and Chip, I interviewed one of the former employees and a wounded warrior himself who had spoken out to you about this. And the other concern was, he said, in all that money that does get spent on veterans, that there's no ongoing case management, that it's not being used for more than the lifespan of what these veterans are really dealing with. Is Wounded Warriors following up on that?
That's right. Well, they claim they do. When I interviewed the representative at Wounded Warrior Project, by the way, we asked for the CEO repeatedly, who you just saw in that piece, to do an interview. He declined repeatedly. But Ryan Cools, we interviewed. He's been with the organization for quite a while. And he said they do follow up, that they call all of their alumni, as they call them, multiple times each year. But that is not what we heard from about 4 dozen former employees who we judged to be quite credible. They like to call them disgruntled employees. Well, I think it was clear to us that if they're disgruntled because they were so disappointed in how the money was being spent, and the fact that they believed there were not the kind of follow-up services, especially regarding mental health, that many of these wounded warriors need.
Eric Millett was passionate about the program, really felt like it had helped him when he was returning as a brain-injured, PTSD suffering warrior. And the outpouring on Wounded Warriors Facebook page has been unbelievable. There's been a lot of positive comments. We went through some of them just as a sample. Marjorie Compton, who says, I hate these attacks. I have donated for years and will continue to do so. You do good work. But then a lot of negative comments as well. A guy named Alan wrote, you want to shed that stigma and maintain some semblance of respect to start to regrow a solid reputation? Try giving open access, fire the wasteful CEO, and get a CEO who actually wants to run a vet charity that matters and does good work. Wounded Warrior Project responded, hello, Alan. Our CEO's salary is 0.1% of our revenue, which means for every $100 raised, less than 15 cents goes toward his salary, which, you know, you can look at the math there and think, say what you want. All right, and here's another one. David Peterson said, I noticed how you stated a bunch of smoke and mirrors numbers, but did not deny the CEO's salary amount or the expense of parties. Think how many more vets could be helped if the CEO's salary was cut by 60% and the parties were eliminated. Again, Wounded Warrior Project responds, hello, David. CBS News incorrectly read our financial documents and falsely reported our meeting expenses. 94% of the figure CBS News reported as meetings and events was actually expenses for warriors and their families to participate in programmatic events like mental health programming. Also, based on our most recent independently audited financial statements, 80.6% of total expenditures went to provide programs and services for wounded service members, caregivers, and families, which you reported that they had said. Are you surprised that Wounded Warriors is going back individually responding to these complaints on Facebook?
Not really, and let me make 2 points. Number one, Wounded Warrior Project has done a lot of good for a lot of people over the years. It's only been since 2009 that people have started saying that their mission seems to be changing, that they are spending a lot more time focusing on raising, meeting their fundraising goals, and according to the people we talked to, focusing less on services to their clients, to their alumni. But let me make another point, and the key figure that was not in that email right there, but in that exchange on Facebook right there, but I have seen it in other places. We absolutely stand by our figure that the amount, that the percentage that they spend on services and programs is in the vicinity of 60%. They claim it's 80, but they include some fundraising costs, and you heard Mark Owens, who was a very prominent tax lawyer who headed the division of the IRS that deals with these issues for many years. He said he disagrees that those kinds of expenses should be included. They include postage and shipping and promotional items and direct response advertising, and if you take all those things out, as the charity watchdogs, who also agree with our analysis, as the charity watchdogs do, then you come out somewhere between 54 and 60% of the money being spent on programs and services, not 80.
Well, as you said, there are so many people, Chip, who hold Wounded Warriors near and dear to the heart.
Absolutely, and it's hard doing this report, to tell you the truth, to disappoint people or to get them angry. But we are simply looking at the facts.
Well, perhaps this can be a call for some good and something moving forward in the future where veterans who need the treatment really feel like they are valued and they're getting the help that they need, and where employees can feel good about the way the money is being spent. Chip Reid in Washington, thank you.
My pleasure.